In this fourth installment of my discussion with Andy Schectman, he discusses silver at $100 per ounce and what that really means, and about central banks buying gold. Stay tuned at the end and I will provide my commentary and explain exactly what this discussion was about and why it was not an interview. Let's explore!
The last chapter will be, it makes a run. But the question is, when it makes a run, what is it like here in this country? What does it mean when silver's $100 an ounce? What does it mean for the cost of a McDonald's hamburger? Or what does it mean for, the cost of your insurance or a gallon of gas or whatever it may be? I think it's not that gold and silver will go to the moon. It's that the dollar that we measure it against is in very big trouble. And when you print as much money as we have over the last 4 years, more than any time in the history of the United States combined, and create all of these distortions, when you antagonize the hegemony of the linchpin of the dollar hegemony, Saudi Arabia say we're going green. When you weaponize the dollar, when you have a fractured and over-leveraged and under-capitalized banking system, there are a million reasons not only why this should happen, but that when it does, the severity of it could be greater than anyone thinks. But that's not why I buy it. I buy it to get out of the way of what's coming, not to make money, but to get out of the way of what I see is a once-in-a-generational shift away from the dollar as being the sole settlement currency for oil. And if you take that away, which I believe we are trying to do, the ramifications are extraordinary. And maybe this is why the central banks of the world have been buying gold and silver at the level that they have for the past couple of years. In fact, right now you look at Russia. They've accumulated so much gold that it is the largest stockpile of gold that Russia has ever held in the history of modern Russian history, ever. You look at China. China has accumulated this quarter, or in the third quarter, 179 tons. That brings year-to-date number to 593 tons. That's 80% more than what it bought in the first 3 quarters of last year. You're talking huge, massive amounts. But I want to read to you one thing that I find to be very, very interesting. Poland is another country that's really been on the gold buying spree lately for the past year and a half. The central banks of the world bought more gold in the last 18 months than ever before, and it's continuing and, in fact, accelerating. They are not only the most well-funded traders in the world, and when I say gold, you bet damn sure they're buying a lot of silver too, but they're also the most well-informed traders. They know where things are going. How many people know that gold was reclassified the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset by the BIS in 2019? Do you think there's any coincidence that they've all repatriated it and have been on a massive buying spree? But let me tell you what the head of the Polish National Bank just said last week. His name is Adam Glapiński, and he said, holding gold is a matter of financial security and stability. Gold will retain its value even when, listen to this, someone cuts off the power to the global financial system, destroying traditional assets based on electronic accounting records. Of course, we don't assume that this will happen, but as the saying goes, forewarned is always insured, and the central bank is required to be prepared for even the most unfavorable circumstances. That is why we see a special place for gold in our foreign exchange management process.
You may have noticed that Andy mentions $100 silver, not necessarily as a price prediction, but rather an illustration of the failure of the dollar on the current path that we are on. He mentions this big spending that the United States has done over the past 4 years plus, and it is alarming. Something that's going to give. It's got to give somewhere along the lines, and this is why we are seeing more de-dollarization and central banks buying gold. It's all kind of tied together here. So I think it's a great commentary of what the real worry is by a lot of these central banks and by many of us. It's not necessarily this idea of doom and gloom. We have it to protect ourselves against the very system itself, which is and has been corrupted on multiple fronts. No matter how deep, far, or wide you think it is, one thing we know that's for sure, and that is the dollar is losing value year over year. even if we have no inflation. In other words, inflation has been steady at least 2%. Their target inflation is 2%. Obviously now it is over 2. It's 3.1 by the latest measure, but that's the official numbers. But we know there's a lot more and a lot higher and deeper inflation at play. And why? Well, because of the Federal Reserve. And we talked about what these central banks are doing and why they're doing it, why they're accumulating gold. And that is something that means that there are warning signs out there. Now, obviously, as is the case and what we have been hearing by many people for many years, including Andy Schectman, is this idea that, hey, something's going to break and it's going to break hard. And we just have not seen it yet. And that's why I kind of like to kind of push back on it in terms of the severity of it and the timing of it, because no one should be buying gold or silver out of fear. It's good to be prepared, and you can prepare by not operating out of fear. The idea is that we do it rationally as we accumulate gold and silver. That's why the idea of dollar cost averaging, which Andy Schectman practices, is so profound. And I think that is the message that I want to send along to you in this discussion. Now, this video here that you're watching is just a section. It's the fourth section of a discussion with, not an interview with Andy Schectman. We were both on the same call, but nonetheless, it was just a series of my statements and him responding in part, but mostly to just give his opinion overall on the markets. The interview was over an hour and 10 minutes long, so I'm breaking it up into sections so that we can digest it piecemeal, and we can do this. Now, Andy has told me that he's willing to come back and do a more of an interview type of a scenario, and maybe even have a situation where he can answer some of your questions, which I think is great, and I appreciate him for doing that and making that offer here. So we just wanted to make you help you understand what this has been as we've gone through this, because some people have questioned, well, did you actually interview him, or is this some footage you got from somewhere else and you're just putting your voice in there? Well, no, this was an actual call with Andy Schectman, but it's just that the flow of it was more in terms of a discussion rather than an answer and a question and answer type of situation. So I hope that helped clarifies that, and I hope you enjoyed the content that he provided here. And I always love to hear what your thoughts are on data, on the information that's provided, whether it be from me or from any guest that I have on the program. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. And I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for watching, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and stay tuned for part 5, and subscribe.